My name is Lex, and this week on Spidey Signals, me and my co host Alex discuss the back half of Season 1 of Greg Weisman and Victor Cook's The Spectacular Spider Man, the price of a secret dungeon in New York, and how excited you should be when you see an alien. Get ready to swing from the highest ledge, because it's time for Spidey Signals. Welcome back to Spidey Signals, the podcast where two guys with the same name talk about Spider-Man. I'm Lex.
And I'm Alex.
Last week, we watched the first 6 episodes of this television program, The Spectacular Spider-Man. Good show.
Pretty on the nose, pretty spectacular. They tend to get kind of, big empty promises with these naming conventions. Cough, cough, amazing. But no, this has held up so far. We're a season in, and I haven't noticed any noticeable dip in quality. If anything, it's been pretty consistently solid.
If anything, I enjoyed this back half more than the front half.
Oh yeah, there's a lot more to enjoy if you're a proper noun Spider-Man guy like us. So, lots to talk about this week.
Indeed. So this week, we are continuing our discussion of The Spectacular Spider-Man, if you didn't already know. These episodes, which would be episodes 7 through 13, were first released from April 26th to June 14th of 2008. The series was obviously created by Greg Weisman and Victor Cook. The episodes that we're talking about were directed in order by Cook, Jennifer Coyle, David Bullock, and Dan Fawcett. And they were written in order by Greg Weisman, Andy Jant, Kevin Hops, Matt Wayne, and Andrew Robinson. And we're going for a little bit more of a clipped cast list, but I've added some extra names, taken some away to talk about people that are specific to this back half of the season. We've got Josh Keaton as Peter Parker / Spider-Man, Lacey Chabert as Gwen Stacy, Vanessa Marshall as Mary Jane Watson, Benjamin Diskin as Eddie Brock / Venom, Steve Bloom as the voice of the Green Goblin and the Chameleon, and Kevin Michael Richardson, who plays Tombstone, because Keith David only played Tombstone in the first episode. I found that out.
Expensive Keith David money keep coming around.
You can't. He's got to go do more Halo stuff, because this was only a year after Halo 3.
God, I wish, man. Yeah, wow, I hadn't thought about that at all. Yeah, it really does slip my mind all the time that the show is from 2008 because it still feels fresh, to be honest.
Yeah, and looks good.
It's not really bogged down in any like super tight time period tied to stuff. You know what I mean? Peter's not
doesn't have like super time period specific animation and things like that. I think the most
or even or even any like topical relevant cultural influence, like, God forbid you make a Spider-Man thing in like 2017, 2018. You don't want to see Spider-Man playing with a fidget spinner, that kind of thing.
I mean, the most you get is a cell phone, but I mean, those have been around for decades.
Nothing that dates this too heavily as, oh, you mean the mid-2000s Spider-Man one. Okay, yeah, all right.
Not like that one Spider-Man comic where he meets Obama.
Yeah.
But this came out before Obama was elected. So, Alex, would you take us through the plot of this back half of the season?
Absolutely, I will. We pick up just about exactly where we left off last week. We are on the night of the Midtown Magnet School Fall Formal.
I'm going to interject immediately. We didn't talk about this in the last episode, but they make like very brief references to the fact that it's the Midtown. It's M cubed.
Yeah,
it's Midtown something.
Magnet Middle, was it, or is this high school?
It's high school.
Because this feels like high school. It sounds like high school. But it's some kind of it's not quite a science school like we have in some other tellings.
Yeah, it's a magnet school, so it's basically like if you get really high grades and stuff, they'll pull you in.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they're doing that. They did that in, they didn't even really mention it, but he's in a sort of science high school magnet thing in the Amazing movies and more obviously in the Tom Holland movies. But I like when Peter's in like a sciencey high school.
Yeah, it gives more credence and more abilities to show us that he's smart instead of just tell us that he's smart.
Yeah,
We are at the night of the much hyped fall formal. Harry arrives with his date Glory and some of the football player, gang in tow, along with their dates in a stretch limousine comped by Harry, making a big show of how he's able to afford it all for the evening.
I
Uh,
love that. I love that Harry's just like a perennial ass kisser. He's
yeah,
like, yeah,
he's
he's a real people pleaser.
he's just very happy to be there, whether or
Very
not
in,
it's on his dime.
very insecure, trying to fill the hole with. We're gonna go to the fancy restaurant with my limousine.
Big Great Gatsby vibes coming from this 15-year-old boy.
Exactly.
Gwen is there and attempts to, greet and be friendly to Harry, who completely ignores her and goes on his way. He's unbeknownst to the character of this show, he's in the throes of goblin juice addiction. It's changing him.
Yeah, he's in the midst of drug addiction, which I think he's busy drinking goblin sauce.
Hmm.
Uh, and
Right out of the tube.
straight out of the tube. Which is, I think, a really good character point, and also it's a way of getting Harry's drug addiction that's in the comics
Yeah.
into
Mhm.
a kids cartoon, but not have it be like, Harry doing like taking pills like he is in the comic.
I thought it was a good way to toe the line in a more, this is a children's show, even if it's not strictly for kids, you know what I mean? Uh, it's a good way to tackle it. We don't see him like assaulting his therapist or anything like he does in the comics too, but it's a good way to handle Harry without just having him be James Franco again.
Thankfully, we don't get to
Um,
see that horrendous mustache that Harry
fucking,
had
oh, yeah.
back then during the drug addiction storyline. Because fuck, he had like a Fu Manchu. It was terrible.
Oh god, I say that I'm like nervously wiping my Fu Manchu away. No, I'm not. Uh,
God, the 70s were a terrible time for facial hair.
yeah, you're telling me. Thanks, Black Sabbath. Soon, Peter Parker arrives with his absolute stunner of a date, Mary Jane Watson.
Dudes rock.
Everybody is just in utter disbelief that puny Parker has arrived to the formal, not with some girl with a nice personality, but with literally Mary Jane Watson.
With literally
Lots
Mary
of
Jane Watson.
uh, Flash ingrains himself in the way he does and attempts to like make some offhand joke about Peter and him having a bet about one of them being a cheerleader for Halloween based on, the dates attending this event and everything.
That was a thing. That was a thing that was talked about in the last
Hmm. Hmm.
the earlier episodes. I think he was talking about Betty at the time.
Right.
He was like, "You don't know her, blah 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 blah," and then it ended up working out for him.
Oh yeah, she kind of turns it around on him and isn't really like phased by the fact that he's like moved in here and is attempting to make fun of her date to her face or whatever, and just goes back to dance. Uh, Harry goes to get drinks and sort of overhears this awful little like aw poor Harry moment where Glory and Kenny Kong get back together like within fucking earshot of Harry, by the way. Uh, I know the kid's a little rich, smarmy asshole, but he deserved a little better than that, I think.
I'm rooting for Gloria and Kenny. I'm glad to see that they're happy together.
Sure, sure. Timing just could have been better, I think.
Also,
Uh,
one thing I love about this scene is this is a really like surface level observation, but the way that people like dance in like TV show cartoons is so funny to me. It's like so like
mhm.
stiff and rigid. It's like, ooh, I'm dancing, yeah,
These are my 12 frames. Get ready to see them.
let's go.
Harry is in a state of fury and he ditches the drinks and runs out of the room to his locker, where in the middle of the hallway he decides to consume some more of his goblin juice.
Goblin sauce, get up.
Which you gotta hope it tastes at least okay, but it is what it is.
It probably tastes like Ecto Cooler.
I would hope so. The Oscorp has like a secret underground vault of Ecto Cooler that's not been touched. It's preserved.
It's filled with all of like these discontinued food products. There's like Zima in there.
Bernard, get me a bowl of Oreos.
Give me a bowl of Oreo O's. And Batman the cereal.
We meanwhile, across town, a mysterious Halloweeny green and purple costumed psychotic supervillain called the Green Goblin. Not sure if you're familiar.
Some kind of goblin that's green.
A goblinoid type creature has broken into the Oscorp laboratory late at night and stolen several pieces of equipment, including a glider of sorts. They really just kind of throw the Green Goblin at us in this show, and honestly, that's great. That's fine. I love it.
I discussed earlier about how I like that Norman is more involved with the villains, like
Hmm.
more meshed and ingrained within that stuff that's going on. But I also like the fact that the Goblin is just like fuck your shit. He's like a total wild card. He's like, "Yep, I'm here. I'm
Absolutely.
doing shit." And I also like the way the
It's
Goblin looks in this show.
Yeah, the stylizing of it is great.
He looks like a goblin,
Hmm. Not tactical at all, the way
not
Defoe
tactical. He looks
was.
like a little elf boy. I like that they kept his little finger gun, which is a thing that's only in like those really early like goblin issues, like late
Yeah,
Ditko, early Ramita era,
I've been
where he
watching
has
this with my partner, and they at a point went, "Can he do that?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, he can absolutely do that."
he has a little laser gun that he keeps in his finger, and when he makes a finger like a finger gun, he shoots lasers out of it. It's a little stupid thing, and I love it so much that they kept it in this show.
Yeah, I think he just has it because he thinks it's funny, and it is.
It is very funny.
But yes, they don't make a whole big like fuss out of building up the goblin over episode. The most they do with that is just planting, Harry drinking his juice, his sauce.
People who know the character are guessing that it's Norman, but people who don't know the character are like it could be Norman. And even then, they
I
throw some
honest, I
curveballs.
on,
They throw some curveballs for the people who even like do know the character.
I really like that it isn't Norman in this telling, which you can get a little dicey with that. And there have been, a few different goblins over the history and course of Spider-Man stuff, but like it really lends I don't know, it does a big favor to the show having Harry be the goblin and wrapping it all up into his whole drug thing. Uh
Yeah,
they paint Norman almost positively towards the end of this season, but well, we'll get there.
but he's still an asshole. So I don't know if
So
he's just like fucking with Harry just to like throw the scent
yeah.
off. It's
Well,
not because
absolutely.
I'm not like 100% convinced that it's just Harry that's the Goblin.
Sure. Well, and we'll talk about this when we get to this episode, but there's a little moment later on where Peter has like all of his loved ones in his head, goading him and, telling him, "You can do it, Pete," moment. And like Norman Osborn's head is there with everybody else's head for some reason, and it fucking cracked me up.
It's very interesting.
All I could hear in my head was like, "At least you're not Harry, Peter."
I love you, my fake son that I love more than my real son. Uh, and one more thing I want to say is sort of adding to that mystery of who the Goblin is, which will obviously be talked about more in episode 8, I think.
Mhm.
Is that the Goblin is not voiced by the voice actor for Harry or Norman. It's voiced by Steve Bloom, which we already talked about, and he does a
Mm.
really good job with the cackling evil Goblin.
A lot of people like to just remember Steve Bloom as, "Oh yeah, it's the Cowboy Bebop guy." He's very, very talented.
When I think of Steve Bloom, I always forget that he plays Spike in Cowboy Bebop. I always
Hmm.
just think of him as like every generic army grunt soldier character in video games from the mid to late 2000s. Because that was like his bread and butter. He fucking made bank off that shit.
I had a moment where I realized the guy that voices, I think Shocker, is the same guy that voices Kyle Katarn in like the
Oh
Star
my
Wars Jedi
god.
Academy games. It's literally just his Kyle Katarn voice, but with a little more Southern twang, like
Oh
just
my
barely different.
god.
Really fucking funny. So back to the plot of the show. We've had Goblin Hour. With all of this equipment, the Green Goblin flies off from Oscorp and immediately goes out of his way to attack a group of thieves who are working for the Big Man, as we know.
Big man.
Um, he uses some stolen money as an incentive for them and kind of goads them into working for him, which they accept. So he's now armed with a personal terrorist gang, kind of, and he crashes and holds up a black tie dinner party orchestrated by the Big Man in his like pseudo public alter ego philanthropy man name L. Thompson Lincoln, his his alter ego is actually, it's kind of reversed as opposed to, Peter and Spider-Man. He prefers to be Tombstone, and then he has to kind of put on the L. Thompson Lincoln thing.
Yeah.
He's very unimpressed at first by the Green Goblin and six his guards out to take care of this. The Goblin is making all kinds of "I'm gonna unmask you, I'm gonna tell everybody everything" threats, which is like people already like have rumors about this guy being this way. You would think that like this goblin flying around the room telling, I'm gonna tell him. It's like we know, we kind of know, but whatever.
Nobody cares.
The guards are defeated very easily, and there's a brief moment where Air Force Colonel John Jameson attempts to fight them, but he's also taken down.
Yes. Also voiced by also Darren Norris. So JJJ and his son are played by the same guy.
A lot of multi roles here. Some nice big fat voice acting checks went out for this show.
Those checks.
Peter is contacted by the Daily Bugle to go take photographs of this holdup at the party, and briefly attempts to apologize to Mary Jane. Oh no, I have to go take pictures of Spider-Man. But she is totally cool about it. Completely 100%. I get it. I'll be here when
I
you
really
get
like
back.
that.
It's a refreshing moment because we get
Very refreshing.
there's a lot of almost artificial stress that can come from any given Spider-Man story when Peter has to be here. He's at this thing he's been looking forward to. Oh no, he has to go be Spider-Man. It's kind of a very, very generic Spider-Man type situation. And it's just nice to be able to walk away from it and be like, okay, yeah, no, it's fine that he's going and doing this. No one's going, sigh, where's Peter? It's just, he's just got to go do it. Whatever. Fuck you. Peter arrives at the Black Tie Thing event as Spider-Man, where he's greeted by Lincoln. At first, Spider-Man thinks that the Goblin is simply working for the big man, but this is confirmed otherwise very quickly. The Goblin then briefly tries to convince Spider-Man to join him. I love any moment of that. I'm a big sucker for we're not so different, you and I, Spider-Man.
He's always trying to get Spider-Man to join him. I don't know why. I think he just does it because he thinks it's fun.
He wants to be Night Owl and Rorschach is what he wants. He wants to be,
I guess.
Let's go be partners, Spider-Man. You could be the Spider Goblin.
He just likes fucking with him. I think that's one of the things I love about Norman as the Goblin is because there's lots of they put a lot of work, especially in this show, to like making all of the villains at least to a somewhat of a degree sympathetic.
Yeah, and they do a good job at that, honestly.
Yeah, it's like, all these I did this because of this tragedy that happened to me or whatever. And then Norman's just like, I'm fucking evil. I don't care. Fuck all y'all.
Mm-hmm. I love money so much.
I love money and power and being evil. It's so fun.
Almost Palpatine, but not quite. No one loves being evil as much as Sheev Palpatine.
No one loves being evil quite as much as that guy.
After Spider-Man turns down the Green Goblin's invitation to become the greatest crime duo of all time, the Green Goblin makes it his personal mission to kill Spider-Man, and the two proceed to fight, as, happens on this show. Spider-Man shoots a web at the Goblin's glider and is defenestrated. There's a fun little bit, like the episode starts with that, and they kind of wrap it back into the present here. They talk about, the definition of defenestration, which, if you didn't know already, that's a fun one. We get a nice little, not so uncommon in this show anymore, web fluid run out. It's, pretty average in the show that it happens, actually. Not one of those rare things anymore, which is realistic. He shoots a lot of fucking web in a given day. So he's pursued through the streets by the Green Goblin, sans web. He finally defeats him, wrapping him up and everything, and while this fight coalesces, the Green Goblin explains that there is a left-behind pumpkin bomb back at the Black Tie event. When Spider-Man goes to find it, he can't find it fucking anywhere, and Jameson kind of opts that the pumpkin bomb would be hidden in the chandelier. There's a fun little sequence where Spider-Man retrieves it and then hurls it into the sky. Cool stuff. Spider-Man goes back to make some kind of, citizen's arrest on the Goblin, as he's wont to do or whatever, but oh no, he's mysteriously vanished, as he does.
Yeah, there's one thing that I don't really talk about the fight sequences in the show all that much. I mostly just let you talk because there's not much to say other than these fights are all really well choreographed and set up by the storyboard artists and animated
Hmm.
really well. And there's not only so many times I can say that. So it's just like, yeah, it's a classic, great, spectacular Spider-Man fight. I don't know what else to really say.
Oh yeah. If anything like leaps out in a fight, like like a spectacularly, interesting sequence, I always try to make note of that. But a lot of times, it is just a quick, easy done Spider-Man fight.
Yeah.
If you're listening at this point, you know how it is.
Yeah.
Um, Back at the dance, Harry's group is outside, and they kind of just take to the assumption that they've been abandoned because Harry is like nowhere to be found. In actuality, he's hiding very nearby them and taking another drink of the vial of formula before walking off.
Look at that
Soon
sauce.
after, yeah, lost in the sauce, as it were.
Lost in the sauce.
Soon after, Peter returns to find the dance floor pretty much completely abandoned, except for Mary Jane, who is dancing with some other guy. Uh, Pete sits down, has a great little "oh no, Spider-Man" moment when Mary Jane walks up and says that she saved the last dance for him, and that's where we cap off this seventh episode at the end of the dance. Nice little
Oh yeah. I love the
beginning,
ending
middle,
of
and
this.
end. Dance, a goblin, and then the dance. Very, very, very solid. Good, emotionally resonant episode. Good stuff. We go from there to the next episode, Reaction. We begin with Dr. Otto Octavius trying to complain to still his boss, Norman Osborn, about the dangers of the recent series of experiments that they've been performing to create essentially super mercenaries in his laboratory, but is quickly berated by Norman for his whining. Uh, I love the interactions between Osborn and Octavius on this show. It's a really great take on Otto.
Norman fucking with Otto is a tried and true like classic. There's nothing quite as good as Norman just being a complete asshole to Otto Octavius and him getting
Hmm.
so mad that he turns into an octopus monster.
You get two guys that smart and that maladapted to like friendly conversation, and I want to stick a third like smart asshole in the mix. I want to find like Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory and stick him in there with Norman and Otto and see how that goes. That'd be an all-timer argument or episode of Jeopardy. Which one?
That or maybe
Uh,
want to put a gun in my mouth, but
that's option three. Yeah, yeah.
that's option 3.
Octavius goes. He backs down from this. He can't really stand up to Norman, and he goes to work inside with some experimentation while Osborn departs. Unbeknownst to him, the Green Goblin sneaks into the lab, activating the all like the generators and locking Octavius inside with this key that it's kind of a dead man safety switch kind of thing. This
Yep.
experiment's not going to go forward unless someone is here to turn this key. Well, the goblin is turning the key, with Octavius still locked inside. Again, I know I bring up Watchmen all the fucking time. This is essentially like the same thing that happened to Dr. Manhattan, kind of getting trapped inside your own experiment. Except this was very much on purpose. Um,
Just fucking with him. Just like, hey,
yeah.
fuck you, Otto. Bzz.
Otto unsuccessfully and desperately attempts to escape from the chamber, but the radiation emitted from the science stuff that happens inside fuses the mechanical tentacles he is wearing to his skin. I
To
feel
his spine.
I felt so fucking bad for Otto. He's just so pathetic on this show, and I felt so bad for him, which you're
And
supposed to, I suppose.
And of course, in classic fashion, it's kind of fucked up. You see his harness like melt into his spine.
Yeah, it's honestly it's bizarre for a kids show what they get away with here, but I love it a lot. Osborn and the others arrive on the scene to turn this generator off and get this oh my god, what's happening to Otto? Jesus Christ! When Spider-Man shows up, as he does, he jumps in to help get Octavius out of the wreckage. When he awakes, he pins Osborn to the wall with his tentacles, attacking him. And when Spider-Man attempts to intervene, Octavius just kind of brushes him aside with a second tentacle, dubbing himself on the spot Dr. Octopus. He steals a power source, this kind of little battery, to recharge his tentacles, and storms out of the building, like already being able to walk on them and everything. To this point, we'd only seen him use them as science tools, but now he's immediately embracing his octopus nature. The next day, Peter, Gwen, Harry, and some of Harry's new popular friends go to Coney Island, where Harry is attempting to impress everybody with his newfound strength. Wonder how that happened. Liz Allen is getting a little clingier, kind of attaching herself to Peter, always calling him Petey. They have a good time, just Coney Islanding about. However, they have this fun time until Peter spots Dr. Octopus and abandons the group to pursue him as Spider-Man. Like, I get that like 95% of Peter's issues would be solved if he was able to talk to the people that don't know he's Spider-Man and tell him he's Spider-Man, but like if you're one of those people, you have to think he's like the shittiest person ever. I mean, I know like Eddie does throughout the course of these episodes, but like, oh my god, Peter.
He just runs away at the sight of danger. He's a very cowardly little boy. And one thing I forgot to mention when Otto like first becomes he first becomes Dr. Octopus and Spider-Man shows up. I love that Otto like immediately just starts monologuing like some evil shit. Like he just the switch is flipped. He's immediately evil mode now.
You could say he can't be contained.
He can't, like Electro, his power cannot be contained. And also, I wanted to talk really quickly about his design.
Yeah.
I really like it. I think it's a good mix of the like classic green jumpsuit with also the big like Raimi trench coat.
It really is best of both worlds, kind of, yeah.
And there is an episode later on, I believe. I think it's just straight up episode 12, where they rip like even lines of dialogue and full sequences just straight up from Raimi 1. And it's like, let's fucking go.
That happens a lot in this show. There's a lot of Raimi fingerprints all over it, and that's not a complaint from me. You guys know how much I like the Raimi
Oh,
shit.
yeah. And especially in episode 12, where it's like almost entirely stuff from Raimi 1, which is my favorite of the three.
Where
it's like, let's fucking go.
I was pointing it out when it did happen, and then it got so heavy-handed with it towards the end. I didn't even need to continue pointing it out to my.
We'll get there, but it's fucking it's ludicrous.
Oh yeah. Spider-Man follows Doc Ock to Tricorp, where he attempts to steal a power pack from a vault to continue powering his newfound arms, tentacles. I always want to have something better to call them, but that's really all you can call them. Spider-Man swoops in, as he does, and attempts to get the power source from him. I think he does get it, actually, yeah. He then runs out with Doc Ock pursuing him, hoping to cause sort of what he did to the Rhino. He wants to just wear him down, get him out of energy. They reach Coney Island, and through the ensuing brawl, Doc Ock, who is aware of Spider-Man's desire to save innocent lives, decides to kidnap an innocent, and just, with the dartboard of, oh, who can I capture here? He grabs Liz out of all the people in Coney Island. He climbs to the top of the roller coaster, forcing Spider-Man to choose between the power pack.
He literally
and
says,
Liz.
like, straight up, just choose. And I'm like, let's go.
Spider-Man throws the power pack very, very far before rescuing Liz. He gets close to Doc Ock as the good doctor is scrambling for the power pack, and is able to get it away from him. This does end with a defeat of Doc Ock right off the bat. I was actually pretty surprised by that. I thought they were gonna like have him get away and have it bleed into the next episodes, but no, another good little self-contained here he is, got him episode.
And there's one little moment where I think Peter webs up Doc Ock, and he's got his arms like suddenly turn to a buzz saw, and I like that the idea that the arms can like change and do different things instead of having them just be big claw things. There's lots of different ways you can have it be, where in the original comics it's just like metal tubes with claws on the end,
goofy little like French fry pincers on the end, yeah.
Or like the Raimi movies where they can like shoot out like spikes and stab people and stuff. Or the one in Spider-Verse, the Spider-Verse Doc Ock, where it's like rubbery tentacles. There's lots of different ways you can take the tentacles.
Mm-hmm. And this, of course, is another, and with it being by the virtue of being an animated cartoon, that lends it even more like possibilities.
Yeah.
When Peter returns to the group, he discovers that Liz and Flash are loudly breaking up in front of everybody. like you do when you get kidnapped by a villain and Spider-Man rescues you. You do a lot of thinking.
Fuck him.
He Flash is jealous that she spent the day so close to Peter, it seems. Peter, he reappears to the group, right? And everyone's like, Peter, where the shit were you? Gwen approaches Peter, and the two agree that they need to have a talk with Harry about his belligerent attitude towards them and his constant strange behavior, which essentially wraps up this episode reaction. We get a nice little, we gotta talk to Harry. We gotta talk about Harry.
The man is off the juice. You can't stop
Mhm.
him.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that episode. I don't think it was my favorite of these we're going to talk about, but very solid, great Doc Ock intro. I still just feel so bad for the guy.
Doc Ock is really good in this show.
hmm Solid. One of the better tellings of him. They get a lot of these characters, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like we said last episode. A lot of really just great understanding of who these characters are and what makes them work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We move on to the uncertainty principle. It is the night before Halloween, and right at the beginning of this episode, the Green Goblin gasses and kidnaps Hammerhead, one of the big man's toadies, lackeys, and takes him to a steel mill. The Goblin attempts to sway Hammerhead to join his ranks, but Hammerhead refuses, as his loyalty lies solely with Tombstone, the big man. I'm just going to keep calling him Tombstone from here on out, because I'm tired of the big man bullshit. It's Tombstone. He's cool. You know this. Later, the Goblin confronts Tombstone and steals a jump drive he's carrying, declaring that he can only take it back from him later that night as he sails it off on his glider. Spider-Man spots the Goblin, and they begin to tussle, wrestle, whatever you want to call it. The Goblin reveals that he's in possession of this jump drive stolen from Tombstone, and that Spider-Man could have it later that night at an arranged meeting place before kicking him off of his glider. So he's up to no good, up to Goblin hijinks, but we're not quite sure what they are yet. Spider-Man catches up with him and notices that he essentially disappears in the vicinity of the Osborn family, like penthouse.
Yeah.
Immediately piquing suspicion. Spider-Man sneaks in and spots Harry's father Norman coming out of a Clue-style secret passageway behind a suit of armor that's halved in the wall.
I wonder how much money that would cost to have secret shit like that built in your ludicrously expensive New York penthouse. And I mean, what if you move? It's oh yeah, also the previous owner has a fucking secret lair inside here. If you want to use that for your game room, and you want to play pool there.
This was Norman Osborn's secret masturbatorium, right behind the suit of armor here.
He goes down. That's his little jerk off room.
Don't go into my suit of armor room, Harry.
You don't want to be down there. I keep my JO crystals down there.
Oh God, that's gonna be in the next arc with the Goblin's JO crystal.
That's how he gets his power. He doesn't use the sauce. He uses his JO crystals.
Lest it mess with his glider's avionics.
Good
Anyway,
God.
coming out of the secret passageway is Norman, and Peter kind of puts everything together in his head that Norman must be the Green Goblin. Easy mistake to make, I suppose.
Pretty safe assumption. I mean, he is fucking Norman Osborn.
Yeah, the man's the smiling caricature of the happy, friendly boss.
Oh, yeah.
Spider-Man is forced to slip out of his reconnaissance after Harry walks in, but he misses Harry drinking his secret green juice from a vial with a cork in it.
I think before we get to that scene, Gwen ends up. When does that happen? He's talking about the sauce, and he holds it up, and you can see half of a goblin face inside.
Yeah, I think
juice.
that's later when he's talking to Gwen.
I don't remember when that was, but
oh my God, it's such a cool moment.
It's such a cool shot. I'm thinking about using that as the artwork for the episode. That or the shot of Spider-Man carrying Gwen and MJ in the last episode. Those are my two choices. I don't know which one to pick. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll look good either way.
You'll see, listener.
Or you'll hear it somehow. A short while later, Peter calls Harry and invites him to a Bleecker Street Halloween carnival along with the gang, Gwen, MJ, Liz. Harry accepts
Black
it.
Cat is there. You could see her.
Yeah, very briefly. I like because we do get more of her in the coming episodes, but this is just like a fun, hey, Black Cat's there. I straight up think she probably just robbed a bank on Halloween and just,
I literally just wrote Black Cat in all caps with like 8 question marks.
fun little are you paying attention kind of thing, I guess. Just she's just there among the other
Yeah,
costume party.
a little hint for things to come.
Exactly. It would have been fine even if it was just that, if we didn't get it like any kind of Black Cat, anything in the show. She's just that'd be fun. I don't know.
Oh, have we talked about the B plot with Jameson coming back from space?
Oh no, I didn't mention that at all. Jeez, yeah, that's how the episode starts, right?
Yeah, that's like the other B plot is that John Jameson is coming back from his trip in space, and there's a bit of a scare with they hit like a meteor or something coming
Mhm.
back to Earth,
And I
and
even without like the ooh ah of like the brief glimpse of Peter in the black suit that we get in the opening credits, the
yeah,
minute they mentioned, "Oh, Jameson's in space," I out loud went, "Oh, symbiote, great."
and you can see on the meteor they hit a little black speck on it, so it's like, yep, that's the symbiote.
Mhm.
But yeah, they end up there's like a concern that he's gonna die, and Jameson gets like really somber for a minute, and it's like really
Mhm.
good.
The setup reminds me of in Raimi's Spider-Man 3 when Dr. Connors like makes reference. He's like the composition reminds me of the quadratic meteors of the 70s, and it's like, "Oh, well, that's how we get at the goo, I guess. It's in a meteor." Sure.
I remember listening to like some podcast. I think I talked about this in the Spider-Man 2 episode last season, but I
Mhm.
remember like watching listening to a podcast or something where they were talking about Spider-Man 2, and it's like, it have been great if uh, the astronaut from Spider-Man 2 became Venom and he brought back the symbiote from space. And the reason he wants to get revenge on Peter is because Mary Jane dumped him at the altar for Peter.
That would have
So
been
like that
something to do with the character, yeah.
would have been something to do with the character. It would have been a better version of Venom, even though I've said before that I do enjoy Topher Grace, Eddie Brock. Uh,
It's kind of a
it,
guilty pleasure for me, his performance, yeah.
you know, it's not about flagpoles or whatever. It's about lighting.
God damn, he really gave up that 70s show for that, huh? Anyway,
God bless him for it.
um, on the way to the carnival, having Harry accepted the invitation. Also, I don't remember if I mentioned that. It's in my notes. On the way to the carnival, Peter attempts to sell some Spider-Man photographs to J. Jonah Jameson, who refuses to take them, and instead, he makes some offhand comment about selling them to the Globe. So Peter's like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Thanks, fuck you." Uh, from there, the Goblin has broken into Oscorp once again when Norman is talking with investors this time, and he steals a prototype inhibitor. Uh, from there, Peter arrives at the carnival, still dressed as Spider-Man. Great little moment here where he like jumps down and is like right next to Gwen, who doesn't see that he just did that. Really, they really play up the Halloween thing. It's really fun.
It's fun.
Uh, Everyone applauds Peter's Spider-Man costume. Flash gives him some shit, Uh,
Oh, and speaking of this scene, I was on the Wikipedia. I was on Wikipedia doing some like very basic like who wrote this and blah blah blah, blah research.
uh-huh.
And I saw that somebody had given like somebody on IGN like back when this episode came out gave this episode a review, and they were talking about MJ's costume that she wears. She's like like a vampire lady,
Hmm.
and like the reviewer like called it like the costume like MJ's sexy costume, and it's like this is a teenager.
It's a
What? Wait,
15-year-old on a children's cartoon, my friend.
get real. You jerking off to the Spectacular Spider-Man? Get real.
Who would do that? Anyway, uh,
Don't no, please don't look over here.
from there, Peter sees some fireworks in the sky, which is concerning because they're goblin-esque. Peter slips out after having seen these green goblin fireworks erupting in the sky, following to the aforementioned steel mill where he finds Tombstone. Uh, the two enter together, a great, kind of odd couple there. The two enter together and they find the goblin has Hammerhead suspended over a vat of molten metal. Very
Very,
Attack of the Clones.
yeah, very like a lot of showmanship there.
I mean, what else are you going to do at the steel mill? The Goblin reveals that the jump drive it's a fake. It's whether what does he say? Does he say the actual drive like never existed? It doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah, basically the MacGuffin was just like a setup just to get
Yeah.
the
I just wanted
Spider-Man
to
and
hang out.
Tombstone there in the steel mill, just so the Goblin can fuck them up.
The Goblin readjusts his focus on Tombstone and Spider-Man, who essentially are forced to team up to fight the villain. I love that. Good little moment there. You don't get a lot of that in Spider-Man, him having to work with villains, mostly Venom, after the point where Venom's become like an okay guy or whatever, but
Yeah,
not something you see often, and especially not with Tombstone, who's kind of essentially just like a side, almost nothing villain in the comics, but
yeah.
uh, very fun. I like the idea a lot. Um, Peter accuses the Goblin of being Norman Osborn at a point, and
Dude's rock.
Spider-Man fires one of the pumpkin bombs kind of back at him at another point. Great, another maybe little Raimi question mark touch. Throughout the fight, the Goblin's leg is injured. He escapes on his also like sort of fucked up glider, and Spider-Man follows him back to the Osborn apartment. And when he confronts him there, Harry's like laying down and pulling the mask off, and uh, he's been revealed to have been drinking the green. Was it Gobulin green?
Yeah, Gobulin Green. And one thing I have my gamer theory is that Norman is just fucking with Peter to make him think that Harry is the Goblin. When he takes that mask off, it looks like he like woke up with a mask on and
Uh
like
huh.
he's like, somebody put me in this, get this off of me. I think he just injured Harry's leg just to fuck with him because it seems like something that Norman Osborn would do. He hates
Right.
his son that much that he would frame him as a supervillain.
He got home, knocked out his son, hit his ankle with a tire iron, and forced him into his costume in 5 seconds.
If anybody could do it, it would be Norman Osborn.
It's like Gone Girl level planning.
Oh yeah.
What is it?
Globulin Green, an early stage experimental performance enhancer, highly unstable and addictive. You stole it from Oscorp, didn't you? Why would you do something so dangerous? So stupid!
For you! You told me to man up! So I took the green to become the son you always wanted me to be. To become a man like you. I must have blacked out again. I don't remember anything. But I can't be the Goblin. Can I?
Harry collapses, and Norman and Spider-Man agree to arrange the Goblin's disappearance while taking Harry on an extended leave from school so he can receive special help for his chemical dependency, I guess you
Dependency.
could say.
But
Um,
yeah, this like the whole reveal of Harry on the thing, and he has like kind of like a mental breakdown when
mhm.
Norman's like, "Why would you do this? Why would you be the Goblin's son?" And he's like, "Cause you're a fucking asshole, and you tried to
You
make me
wanted a
do this."
popular evil goblin for your boy, and that's what I gave you.
That's what I gave you. It's a really good scene, really well acted.
And that not only is that good, I love the Norman and Spider-Man like working together on what's our story, what's going to become of Harry, are we going to tell the cops? No, we're not going to tell the cops. The Goblin's gone. Let's take care of Harry. Okay, goodbye, Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's like, what do we want to
And
do with this? It's really good.
they don't pat themselves on the back too much. Norman doesn't go, Spider-Man, you're a true hero, and I love you, and you sound like Peter for some reason.
And
He's like, okay,
you're my son. I love you.
it's just very nod. We're done. Leave. Good stuff. The next day at school, Peter learns that Mary Jane has officially transferred into his school and is going to be a regular rotating part of the cast now.
Yeah, the last episode they talked about, not the last episode. I think it might have been in the at the dance.
Mhm.
They talked about how they also have a magnet program for theater. And
Yes, yes,
MJ
yes.
was very interested in that because she's interested in acting. So she ended up transferring, and she just shows up there, and Peter's like, "MJ, what the hell are you doing here?" And MJ is like, "I transferred here. Yeah, I'm here now."
So with that said, and with what everything we said earlier about the ship scenes that I managed to misplace in my synopsis here, They have this great sequence of the space shuttle struggling to get back to Earth safely. After the meteorite or meteor that it struck has damaged the heat shielding, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that.
It does eventually land in Cape Canaveral. Very skin of the teeth landing, not smooth at all. The next day, Jonah learns that the Globe's cover story of the Goblin's Rampage, featuring Peter's photos, is outselling the Bugle story about the heroic space journey of young Mr. Jameson. So, an infuriated Jameson decides to meet the public's demand by publishing a new cover story questioning if Spider-Man is, guess what, a hero or a menace.
No, it's threat or menace.
Oh yeah, there we go, which is better, right?
That's the classic Jameson one. That like shows up in like every version of the character is Spider-Man threat or menace, and it's great.
Meanwhile, John is having a quick interview at the shuttle hangar when he notices a mysterious vibrating black goo on the bottom of the shuttle.
It's really funny because he's like, this guy's interviewing Jameson. I think it's Foswell who's interviewing Jameson, and he's like, "Oh well, you had a rough travel back, and then suddenly they find alien life on the bottom of their ship." They're like, "Oh, that's weird.
Hey, what do you think of that? I don't know.
That's kind of
something.
funky."
Anyway,
The episode just ends.
it sure does. Which leads us into the beginning of the next episode, Persona. Beginning with Peter rushing home excitedly to inform Aunt May that alien life has been discovered, because of course that matters to Peter very, very much.
I feel, Peter comes down and is like, "Oh, I'm so excited about that we found alien life," and I feel like Peter is the only person who's like on the level that you should be excited about alien life. Everyone's like, fucking yeah, whatever, aliens, who cares?
Yeah, and it was technically discovered in Florida too, so go Florida.
Everyone's so unenthused about fucking alien, black alien sentient goo that has appeared on the bottom of a spaceship. Nobody cares.
It's just some mud. Who gives a shit?
There's a guy that's literally made of electricity and one guy that's made of sand. I don't care anymore.
That's as alien as it gets in New York freaking city, baby. Ignoring May's scoffing, Peter turns on the TV to see that the black sludge from Jameson's shuttle has been sent to, drumroll please, Dr. Connor's lab for analysis. Hoping to get an exclusive, he calls Eddie Brock only to learn that Dr. Martha Connors has forbidden all reporters and photographers, specifically also especially ones named Peter Parker, who desert their friends. You gonna do that every time? I bet you are.
Yes.
It's fucking ruined. You can't have a comic character named Martha anymore.
Why did you say that name? You can't do it.
Why is my husband a lizard?
Save Martha. That's what he said. That's what Connor says to Peter after he cures him of the lizard.
Why do you know that name, lizard? Undeterred, Peter decides to visit that lab that evening as Spider-Man, only to find that the lab is already occupied by another unregistered visitor, a young woman in a skin-tight black suit who is in the process of opening the alien's containment chamber. They, spar for a little while. There's a great little action sequence where she has like a grappling gun. That, it's fun to, spar with him and his webs and everything.
They throw a lot of shit around, but the shit that gets broken never triggers the lasers, or maybe it does.
Yeah, which is it. It is what it is. It's cartoon, I guess. They quip, they fight, and the thief introduces herself as Black Cat, informing Spider-Man that she was hired to steal the alien and also flirting with him. She offers him a slice of the mud pie. She says, I have that written down.
Imagine getting hired to steal
her.
an alien, like you're in the movie E.T. It's just like, yeah, let's go fucking secure this alien.
They do make a joke about that at some point once it's known that they think Spider-Man stole it. That someone says Spider-Man stole the E.T. and all I had in like my mental image was him like Amazing Fantasy 15ing like E.T. under his arm, screeching through the streets of New York.
Yeah, the Spider-Man and Black Cat end up fighting each other, and the symbiote ends up. Well, it's not called the symbiote yet, but the funny alien goo ends up disappearing from its domed containment. Black Cat doesn't have it, and unbeknownst to Peter, it's stuck to his shoe like a wad
Yes.
of gum.
Latched onto his heel like an extraterrestrial dog turd, I'm sorry to say.
Like
Dr.
the world's grossest wad of big league chew.
Oh, yeah, black, drippy, big league chew.
Like they left out in the sun for like a week in the middle of July.
Spider-Man, of course, refuses this offer to steal an alien for money. But in the course of this fight, like you mentioned, the alien has now attached itself to Peter's heel. Dr. Connors bursts into the room, and Black Cat retreats. And only when Spider-Man realizes that the alien is gone does he also give chase. Very lucky it didn't already completely consume his costumes, because he'd be like, "What are you talking about? Huh? What the fuck?" The next day, Captain Stacy is interviewing Dr. Connors, and I do want to mention as well, I like Captain Stacy a lot in this show too. He's no Dennis Leary, but he's very serviceable for the time he is on screen.
He's voiced by Clancy Brown, who plays who's best known as Mr. Krabs. He plays a couple other people on the show, but I'm happy to hear him.
Yeah, no, it's a solid performance. They expressed disbelief that Spider-Man would have stolen the alien because, I mean, fuck, yeah, why would he?
It's Spider-Man.
Eddie,
what would his purpose be?
Eddie then furiously denounces both Spider-Man and Peter Parker, rebuking Gwen when she attempts to calm him down. At the Bugle, J. Jonah Jameson is having an absolute field day, accusing Spider-Man and Black Cat of planning the whole thing. Peter attempts to protest here and there, but is shouted down. Peter states that Dr. Connors also witnessed the fight, but Jameson retorts that Connors had returned in the morning to find the lab robbed. So Peter's like, okay, so he's a lizard and a liar now. What's up with that?
A lying lizard bastard.
In a warehouse somewhere in town, Dr. Connors is chortling over the headlines and peels off a mask to reveal himself as the Chameleon.
The Chameleon.
Oh, which I very I don't know. I don't want to say rarely used villain, but they don't do a lot with the Chameleon ever.
The Chameleon should be used more because it's kind of weird that he's not used very often for a guy who is both in the comics related to Kraven the Hunter and also the first villain Spider-Man ever fights.
Yeah, you would think that he would be a little more prevalent, but I would wager a lot of people don't even know he exists. Like your average Spider-Man consumer might not be inherently as familiar with Chameleon as maybe Mysterio or Goblin or people like that.
I guess guy who disguises himself isn't as flashy as man with octopus arms.
Right. I guess, whatever sells more comic books.
Whatever.
The Chameleon is in the game now. Taking a phone call, he informs his employer that he has failed to steal the alien and the down payment will be refunded. So at least that's considerate, nice refund policy in the organized crime racket here. He turns to his cohorts, Phineas Mason and one Quentin Beck, and says that the Daily Bugle has given him an idea and he'll need their utmost abilities to pull off his plan. I got very excited when they said Quentin Beck.
I knew. I actually don't remember them saying Quentin Beck, but I do. I saw that guy with his fucking horrific bowl cut, and I'm like, oh my god, it's fucking Mysterio, and he doesn't even show up as Mysterio in this season. We had to wait until probably the next episode of this podcast or the next episode after that. He still hasn't even shown up yet. I'm so excited.
No, I love that. The Black Cat Halloween thing was one seed planted, but yeah, they do name drop this guy as Quentin Beck and do no Mysterio shit over the next few episodes. Because in all fairness, these next few episodes are completely packed anyway. There would be
there's a lot of shit going on. I wouldn't want him to jam Mysterio in here for no reason.
But I'm glad they planted that. It's good stuff. I love a good setup. Spider-Man is again chasing Black Cat, oblivious to the darkness spreading up his costume. Turning it
the darkness.
I know we've talked suits all day long, and I know you're of the opinion that the Raimi symbiote suit is a little lazy. I think I've come around to that opinion too, in the sense that it's just straight up the same suit but black.
I like the original Raimi suit. I've said this.
Yeah,
before.
it's fun. I think they we're not going to just sit here and talk Raimi all day, but the Raimi suit I think could have benefited from just being black with big white eyes, like, should be the case. Capital S maybe should be.
I feel like they should have done better, but part of me realizes that the whole Venom subplot in Spider-Man 3 was incredibly rushed. So
Yeah.
I mean they did the best with what they could, and I don't hold it against them for that reason.
Yeah. I do think in that same vein they could have gone a little, wackier with the symbiote suit here. They do get, the white eyes, the white chest, but it does retain like the silvery kind of white silvery kind of webbing that the Raimi suit has. It's I would argue maybe inspired by Raimi more so than the comics, but it is a little more comic accurate than Raimi was.
There is something that I really like about the black suit in this series is that when he first gets the black suit, it is like the Raimi suit where it's just the regular suit dipped in black paint. But as it progresses and eventually once he gets the last episode that he has it, which I think is 12, it is and you can see it as the episodes progress where the spider on it gets larger on the chest and the webbing on the suit gradually disappears until it's just that original flat black and white costume. I really actually like that. It's a way of establishing visually that the symbiote has more control over him. And I think I really like that decision that they made. If they had done that in the Raimi movie, I would have liked it more, to be honest.
It's pretty neat, yeah. But we are officially in Black Suit Spider-Man territory as of this epised, which is one of my, preferred arcs. I like everything kind of that happens with it. Black Cat alerts him to the fact that this has happened. His costume is now black and white, kind of flirtatiously assuming that he's aping off of her thing and taking up her offer. Peter realizes that the alien must have bonded to his costume, of course, and then he kind of dips out on Black Cat from here, trying to understand what's going on. He contemplates how to get this alien off of him when an out-of-control airplane flies past.
9/11-2, it's happening, the sequel.
Oh, Electric Boogaloo. As this out-of-control airplane, dips over, he discovers that the black suit has actually enhanced his strength and agility, enabling him to successfully rescue the pilot and also stop a construction crew from being crushed to death by falling girders. Really, really fucking lucky he was in that area, I guess. He realizes and, essentially, less realizes and I think more maybe just tells himself, oh, well, this black suit could help save more people and earn more money, so I'm going to opt to keep it.
He's just like, I'm going to keep it.
Yeah, maybe I should give this back. No, it's going to help save people and earn money, sure. He goes home and from there discovers that the suit can retract to be below his clothes, which is probably got to be the most convenient fucking thing ever, I imagine. That's really great. To find his aunt in the middle of swooning, I guess, having cooked all day, tasting recipes and testing recipes. They don't outright say that she's like working on a cookbook until like the last episode, right?
They don't say that until the very last episode. But May is writing a cookbook, which I think it's really fun. Yeah, I like that May's getting out there and being proactive.
It gives her something to do that doesn't involve saying, "Well, my friend Anna Watson." Great sequence there. Later that night, the chameleon is dressed as Spider-Man, and he robs a bank using suction cups and wrist-mounted like bolas, spring-loaded boots to simulate Spider-Man's powers. And there's a fun little bit where he's like doing Spider-Man quips, but like kind of getting them wrong. It's fun.
Yeah, I like this. I like this like trick suit of like trying to like do all of his powers without actually having them. I think it's really, really fun.
Just enough to maybe sell the illusion, but not like fully.
Yeah, because he has this webs that don't even look like webs. They're like little ropes that he shoots out.
Right.
And he has the web shooters on the outside.
Yeah, that's really fun. While he's doing this, his cohort Mason is taking photos to send to the Bugle. And the next morning at school, via this, Peter is surprised to learn that Spider-Man is being publicly accused of being guilty of robbing banks. The Chameleon robs an additional bank from there, and Peter walks in on a jubilant J. Jonah Jameson, announcing his victory over Spider-Man. Very fun scene there. I like seeing Jonah think he's won.
Yeah, it's fun.
Hunting for his doppelganger that evening, Spider-Man encounters Black Cat once again, who offers him assistance and leads him to a gala hosted on the mayor's yacht, which is always a great, sentence, I guess.
It's a great place to go rob people.
Oh yeah, especially if you're wearing like a priceless tiger head necklace or something. I don't know.
The tiger poster from Zoobooks.
Jesus Christ, you derailed me there. That's funny.
The tiger poster.
Captain Stacy and J. Jonah Jameson are also in attendance of this yacht party, as they are socialites, I guess. The Chameleon infiltrates the party, disguised as Norman Osborn, and changes into his fake faux Spider-Man costume, and takes the party hostage. Black Cat and Spider-Man arrive on a jet ski, which is a very Spider-Man device to use. And Spider-Man confronts the Chameleon, while she takes on Mason and Beck, who are disguised respectively as a dockhand and a waiter. The Chameleon quickly finds himself outmatched by the real deal Spider-Man, and attempts to retreat and get away. But Spider-Man apprehends him and unmasks him fairly, given the context of everything, fairly unceremoniously. Jameson very reluctantly orders a retraction on his papers after this. And
he's like, I'm gonna put a retraction. He says it's like put it in
never
tiny
done a
font
retraction.
put it in tiny font on page 47.
Classic Jameson. Spider-Man, meanwhile, is pardoned by Captain Stacy of the wrongdoings he was accused of. Spider-Man almost confesses to the theft of the alien, but a voice whispers in his head that he's better off keeping it, and he says nothing.
Already going evil mode. Let's go.
He later meets up with Black Cat, who congratulates him by doing the Black Cat thing to do and stealing Spider-Man's first kiss, revealing she also stole the tiger-shaped gem necklace.
The tiger poster.
And she then quite literally leaves Pete hanging, just vanishes while he's still sitting there awestruck. 15-year-old Peter, his first kiss coming from a hyper-sexualized thief in her presumably 20s, 30s. That
just reminds me of like the worst Spider-Man panel I've ever seen in my life. Which is saying something. It's from the Ultimate Run, and it's part
I was
of the
actually
reason
going to mention this exact scene, I think. So good.
It's part of the reason I don't like Bagley's art on Ultimate. Black Cat is like about to kiss Peter in the Ultimate comic. I don't remember which issue it is.
Mhm.
And eventually, like, Black Cat takes off the mask and sees Peter and realizes that he's like a 15-year-old kid, and she's like a fully grown adult woman, and she's like, "What the fuck?" But Peter like makes like the dumbest face. Like, I gotta find this.
I've literally got it pulled up and I'm looking at it right now. And man,
You put it in the Discord right now.
I'm a big I don't want to say apologizer or anything, but like I really like Ultimate. This moment sucks. It really does.
It's not that specific one.
Ultimate does by and large kind of suck. I do have a sucker for when Bagley does draw stuff good though. I may have said in the past he was my favorite. That's very conditional. Very conditional.
I think I found it. The
Okay.
kissy face is pretty bad. But it's like after she finds out that Peter is a 15-year-old, she throws up on the crotch of his suit, and then he makes this face, which is fucking horrible. Joe Quesada, you motherfucker, editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, you saw this shit and said, "This is good. Print
That's
this." Yep.
Normal
Print
reaction.
this. It doesn't
No.
even look like Peter. It just looks like some guy.
Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm so glad we're not doing an episode on you this season.
That's my hot take, is that I think there's quite a bit of art in Ultimate Spider-Man that's just dog shit.
No, you're exactly right, and I'm a Bagley apologist, and you're still right.
And Bagley has done good work on Spider-Man, but just not in Ultimate.
Sure.
I don't know if that's the part of the colorists who do all the shading, or it's so weird looking.
But with that fun little tangent over, we are about halfway through this episode now, give or take. We've covered 3 of these 6 final half of the season episodes.
We've covered 4.
Oh, we have covered 4. You're right. We're more than halfway done. Wow. This is a good fucking show. We move on from there to episode 11, Group Therapy, which begins with Max Dillon being, no pun intended, discharged from Ravencroft Asylum, thanking the once again female Dr. Kafka for helping him recover. That fluctuates occasionally, Dr. Kafka, right? Here and there as a character.
I think we talked about that in the amazing. Dr. Kafka is a female in the comics.
I don't know why. I swear to God, I keep thinking he's a man. Dr. Kafka's a man in some telling of something somewhere. Maybe
You
I'm
keep
off
thinking
on
he's
that.
a man because he's a man in the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
That's it. There we go. I got it backwards. Okay.
That's what I
Yes.
was going to say. That's what I was going to say. We talked about this in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 episode.
Check in every season to watch Alex make the same mistakes over and over.
Or Dr. Kafka is like a Nazi German scientist.
Yeah, you know. Max Dillon is released with a clean bill of health, thanking Dr. Kafka for helping him recover. He's using his newfound control over his electrical powers, and he places a phone call to Dr. Otto Octavius, informing him to get ready.
At the payphone in the prison yard. Is that a real thing? I've never been to prison.
That's the immediate place you go to set up your next crime. Yeah, there's a convenient bug already in the handle.
I always thought they like kept phones in like a separate part of a prison, but there apparently are just like pay phones sitting out in the middle of the prison yard where all the prisoners are working out and shit.
You taste freedom, you get out. First thing you want to do is call in some delivery pizza, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I would do if I was leaving prison. I would call the payphone, get them delivered to my house, and then when I get out, and just like, I'm waiting for my pizza, motherfucker.
It's pizza time.
Pizza time.
Max Dillon is placing this call to Doc Ock, informing him to get ready and thanking him for his advice and counseling. We cut from there to Rikers Island Penitentiary, with Doc Ock informing Montana, Flint Marko, Adrian Toombs, Alex O'Hearn, and I believe the other enforcers that it is time for them to escape and exact revenge on the Spider-Man. That evening, Electro short circuits the cell locks, enabling them to escape with the help of Hammerhead, who returns Octavius' tentacles to him, Vulture's flight suit, and Montana's shocker equipment, providing them with a ride back to the mainland. So right off the bat, they've broken out. We're getting the Sinister Six episode. A properly done Sinister Six where the characters have been established and they've all had breathing room and time to establish themselves as who they are with motivations. Take some fucking notes, Tony.
I guess we're getting that in No Way Home. And I think I tweeted about this. I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast. But Sony has wanted to do a Sinister Six movie for so long.
So badly they want to.
They finally figured out that the best way to do it is just to build it on top of the corpses of 2 dead versions of the Spider-Man franchise. Just like, we're going to build it out from the Raimi movies and also the Amazing movies and the MCU movies because we can't stay consistent enough to have them all be in one franchise. We have to just build them on top of corpses.
The good news is we have 6 villains worthy of calling a Sinister Six. The bad news is we have to dredge them up from the last 20 years of other movies that were better and worse in some ways than what we're doing here now. Okay,
the bad news is that one of them is the Lizard.
We have to call Racy fans and Topher Grace and see what they're up to tomorrow. God, I hope I don't have to see Topher Grace in this fucking movie.
I would laugh my ass off if Topher Grace was
absolutely.
In No Way Home.
People want
like,
Tom
get
Hardy
that
and
fucking
get
bread,
Grace.
King. Get that bread.
Good for him. He's making that Spike Lee money now. Anyway,
dudes rock.
In the morning, Peter prepares to head out, discovering that the black suit, can fully flow all over him, produce its own webbing, all that, which is fun. I am watching this as I watch most, but not all, of the stuff we do on the podcast here with my partner, just because we live together, and if I'm gonna watch something, they're usually gonna join me. I had the pleasure in this episode of not realizing that my partner knows almost nothing about the black suit arcs that haven't been told in other movies and stuff. So I had to explain. Oh yeah, the suit can make its own webbing and shit. Venom fires him out of the top of his wrist like this. Just getting to play Symbiote 101 during this episode. It was a lot of fun.
It's fun.
Peter persuades Aunt May to go to the theater with Anna Watson, despite feeling peakish, missing the muted broadcast talking about the breakout. Peter greets Eddie, who berates him really, really fucking roughly, by the way.
Eddie is fucking cold-blooded in this episode. He's like, you never cared about anybody ever. And it's like, damn, motherfucker, what do you know?
He's stewing on this.
And then later you find out it's just because, Eddie is incredibly bitter by himself over what's happened in his life.
Very layered with this. Good Peter and Eddie relationship throughout this whole show. It's very well done. Peter is specifically berated for not calling the police following Spider-Man's theft of the alien. Peter, with the quote-unquote help of the suit, quickly gets over losing his oldest friend and follows a police car to find the Rhino trashing Times Square. As, Rhino's really only got this singular motivation of screaming and running, so, what else are you going to do?
Smashing into things, that's what he does.
He's ambushed during this fight with the Rhino by Sandman, and is then surprised in quick succession with the presences of the Shocker, Vulture, Electro, and Doc Ock waiting for him as well, ganging up on the poor boy. Aunt May attempts to stop... wait. I have this in my synopsis, and I legitimately do not remember this. What does Aunt May do here? It says Aunt May attempts to stop them from ganging up on Spider-Man. Does that happen?
Aunt May and Anna Watson just kind of stand in the way, and it's like, don't hurt poor boy. And then Peter ends up getting them out of the way.
That's right. I remember him getting them out of the way. And I do read these synopses that I haven't written myself before we go through, just to, have an idea of what the fuck I'm talking about. But I legitimately just had a brain fart for a second there, and I was like, what the fuck does it mean Aunt May stops them? What? I had to think about that one for a second. I watched this fucking episode.
She's got a lot of chutzpah,
night,
She got a lot of chutzpah.
Remember that, damn. But yes, they are, safe from this. Spider-Man does get them out of the way. Once inside the theater, May collapses again. Poor heart that she has. Outmatched by all of this, Spider-Man is forced to retreat into the sewers where the Rhino is too big to fit, and Electro and Sandman's powers prove more of a hindrance than a help. So, for the first time of many times, Peter escapes the Sinister Six. Which, I mean, once you get into a Sinister Six kind of story, that's really all the kind of thing you can tell is either Peter having like a big capital M moment and kicking all of six of their asses in succession, or, oh god, oh fuck, I need to get out of here, which more often than not is the case.
Yeah. that's the secret to beating the Sinister Six, is just divide and conquer.
Yeah, absolutely. That evening, Mary Jane arranges to go on a date with Eddie Brock, but is disgusted when he pulls these like really reckless Daredevil like weaves with his motorcycle in traffic the entire time, just talking shit about Peter. She then realizes that he only went on this date to cause strife with Peter because Peter has a vested interest in Mary Jane, and she tells him that while Peter is flawed, he's still twice the man that Eddie will ever be.
Yeah, Eddie. Oh, he doesn't even have the symbiote yet, and Eddie is going fucking nuts.
Yeah, I've said this a lot with my criticism of the Tom Hardy Venom movie, but like, you need to have Venom's motivation and Eddie's motivation like singularly work towards their hatred of Spider-Man and Peter Parker specifically for like any part of it to really matter. And they did a really, really great job of that with this telling of it. His hatred for Peter and his hatred for Spider-Man are already like on fire before the symbiote is anywhere near the guy.
Part of me wants to see Venom 2 out of morbid curiosity, because I've seen Venom 1. It's a terrible movie. Do not let anybody tell you that it's like some so bad it's good masterpiece. It's
A
just
fucking
bad.
constant fight with my friends all the time. They refuse to acknowledge that movie is not good.
It is just a bad movie. Tom Hardy is unironically really like he's obviously having a lot of fun and he's really funny in it. Like not funny like so bad it's good funny, but like actually genuinely funny in that movie.
Right.
This is the closest we will ever get to doing a Venom episode because that movie is dog shit and it has nothing to do with Spider-Man.
Yeah. Right now,
it's
anyway. God fucking bid.
everything else around Tom Hardy, the story, the editing, the characters, it's all shit. And one of the main things is that there's only so many conflicts that you can do with a Spider-Man villain that doesn't have Spider-Man in it.
Especially one whose like entire backstory hinges on Spider-Man.
Yes. And the main conflict that Eddie and Venom have in that movie is that Venom thinks that Eddie is a loser because, you know, he's lost his girlfriend and, you know, he doesn't stick up for himself, blah, 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 all this other stuff. And they have, you know, a little heart to heart. And then Venom realizes, oh, on my planet, I was a loser too. And then they bond over that. They have that one conversation and then suddenly they're best friends. And then they go fight Riz Ahmed, who is Riot in that movie.
Dude, I saw that movie one fucking time in the theater, and I think any time I've had a drink in those last few years was in an attempt to forget Venom.
And then, you know, and then the trailer for the new movie comes out. And then you realize that they're just doing the first one again. Number one, he's fighting another symbiote because that's all you can ever really do with Venom is just have him fight other symbiotes.
Exactly.
Because he fought right in the last one. He's doing Carnage in this one. Which, you know, props for them for not blowing their load on Carnage immediately. Waiting for the sequel to pull out Carnage.
I guess. I don't know.
You know how to dip your toe in there. And number two, Venom is upset about Eddie for being a loser again for the exact same reasons that he's upset with him for being a loser in the first movie. It's like basically they took the same script, replaced Riot with Carnage, and then just sent it in.
So what you're saying is I should buy stock in Sony tonight, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I like to think I'm gonna have the resolve to not see this movie because I have a fucking lot of movies I want to see in October and November. If it comes down to it, I might pirate it and just have a movie night with friends and just sit there with my head in my hands, being the only one not enjoying it.
There are so many good and interesting movies that are going to be coming out this year. There's the new James Bond movie that's coming out.
Oh yeah,
Licorice Pizza, the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie, Dune, Spider-Man: No Way Home. All of these great and exciting films that you could see in the theater if you're vaccinated, motherfuckers. And if you're going to make the decision to choose to go see Venom, There Will Be Carnage, I can't help you. Like, there's no way I can't help you.
You have thoroughly disqualified yourself from being a guest on the future of this podcast.
I can't help you. I can't help you.
Yeah.
It's not camp, it's just shit.
Catch me at Halloween Kills again.
Back to this program.
Let's talk about good Venom. Back at the Bugle, Jameson is furious that Peter missed out on getting the scoop on the Sinister Six until he learns that Peter's aunt has been hospitalized by a heart attack, calming immediately and phoning to tell him the bad news in an attempt to tell him the bad news. At home, Peter ignores this call, thinking he was going to be berated for not sending pictures, which, you know, of course, was the original intention. He heads to bed, assuming that Aunt May has safely returned and bedded herself. He wants... What's he do? He wants to set an alarm for 9 p.m. to wake up and check around then, but of course doesn't. The Sinister Six commandeer a restaurant. I really like the phrasing there that they've commandeered this restaurant because they really have. The waiters are still kind of just putting around.
Yeah, they're just having dinner like a couple of good friends.
They're bickering over their objectives and, you know, just doing Sinister Six stuff before they decide to put their differences aside and finish off Spider-Man. The radio sounds off that the Sinister Six have taken hostages at a bank. Peter attaches the symbiote to him and, you know, kind of gives chase. He arrives at the bank as Spider-Man and is captured by Doc Ock, but his costume lashes out with tentacle type, symbiote things of its own. And Electro accidentally blasts Doc Ock, enabling Spider-Man to break free. He systematically works through and defeats the Sinister Six, pinning Electro beneath Rhino, which I thought was honestly the most impressive bit of using them against each other. Great way to incapacitate them both. He webs Vulture between two trees and then uses the Shocker's gauntlets to he uses the sonic aspect of them pretty much to blast Sandman apart, liquefy him. And there's this great little subtle thing that happens during that they don't call a ton of attention to, where the symbiote kind of bubbles off of him a little bit as he does it. They never do the cartoon exposition thing of, wow, the sonic waves from Shocker's gauntlet also affected the symbiote. It's just a thing that happens, and they don't talk about it. If you don't even notice it, it doesn't fucking matter if you don't even notice it. But I noticed it, and I thought it was fucking cool.
I've always thought that the most effective, the villain that would be the most effective against the symbiote would be the Shocker, because his whole thing is shock waves, and the symbiote really doesn't like those.
Absolutely. Either that or, I don't know, Spider-Punk because he has a guitar. I don't know.
I'm sure there is, but I hope there's an issue where Spider-Man and the Shocker team up to fight Venom. That'd be fun.
Either that or just have Peter reverse engineer his own Shocker gauntlets. I'm sure it's possible. But yeah, great little, I want to say subtle, but it happens in the middle of the fucking screen. So maybe it's not that subtle, but I don't know. If you're paying attention, you catch it that the symbiote is also semi-disrupted by the Shocker's gauntlet. Doc Ock grabs Peter and attempts to impale him on the Rhino's horn, is what he wants to do.
Yeah, Dr. Octo, he's well, I guess there's a lot of obsession with impaling in this movie.
Yeah, in a children's show, he says, we can impale his heart on the Rhino's horn. Just, okay,
this is a kid's show, so instead of saying kill, they usually say destroy.
Or impale. All right.
But not here. They just say, we're going to fucking impale you now.
At this point, Electro loses control of his powers, as we're all aware they can't be contained, forcing Octavius to drop Spider-Man. Spider-Man then clocks Octavius, knocking him out, and lifts him by his coat, about to impale him on one of his own tentacles, before Captain Stacy orders Spider-Man to stand down, and he leaves. And I know it's the symbiote, doing all this. I'm not that dumb. I know it's the symbiote making Peter be evil, but Jesus Christ, Otto? Out of all these people that have been fucking with you for years, you're gonna pick the most recent addition to the team and kill him? Okay, whatever. All right.
Fuck this guy in particular,
who, by all accounts, a week ago was the most nebbish little dork on the planet. But all right, kill him, Peter. Whatever.
It's what he rose up in the ranks real quick.
Back at home, Peter wakes up more exhausted than when he'd gone to bed. And I should mention, I did a kind of bad job of telling this, I guess, but I also did a bad job of perceiving it when it happened. Peter is not Peter in this fight. This is Peter's sleeping body being piloted by the symbiote, which I didn't understand until it was pointed out to me, I guess, by the show.
It's part of the reason why he doesn't say anything in that whole fight is because Peter goes to sleep. After
they do make some remark about him not quipping as much, I think, too.
Peter goes to sleep. I think before May comes back,
right.
He doesn't realize that she's had a heart attack and has gone to the hospital. And so he goes to sleep and he's like, I wish that I could wake up and Dr. Octopus and his cronies would all be in jail. And so while he's asleep, the suit grabs a hold of his body and takes him over to where they are, and he beats the shit out of them. And that's why he doesn't say anything the whole time, because he's actually his eyes move and stuff, but he never says anything because he's unconscious the whole time.
Super, super interesting. That really blew me away. Really cool. Once I realized everything and it settled on me, I was like, that's fucking incredible. That's amazing.
And it's also based off of the stuff that goes on in the comics, where the suit takes hold of him at night and makes him go off and fight crime and stuff just to exhaust him and take more energy from him.
Peter, he wakes up in the morning more exhausted than when he'd gone to bed and finds a cut on his arm that wasn't there. Perplexed by this, he finds photos of Spider-Man's fight with the Sinister Six that he has no recollection in participating in, and realizes that the symbiote has, done exactly what we've discussed here and used him to fight the Sinister Six.
Yeah, he
He
says he wasn't wearing the suit was wearing him.
Mhm. With this in mind, he still opts to keep the suit, reasoning that as long as it got him paid, none of this matters. MJ interrupts his brooding and informs him that his aunt, who he had assumed was still upstairs in bed, has had a heart attack and is in the hospital, capping off this 11th episode of the show.
Shit is getting crazy.
Yeah, we are in the throes of the black suit. Moving to our penultimate episode of the season, Intervention. Fun name. A lot of the names for this series are cribbed from chemistry. If you haven't caught on to that yet, just
they're
sciencey stuff.
They talk about how they're all based on. I don't know if this would be. I think that you're now talking about. I don't think it would be under your trivia category.
Yeah, no, I was just pointing it out here. Yeah,
all the episodes are based off of like subjects in school, because the writers wanted it to be based on like sort of the theme of like the education of Peter Parker. So in this first season, like the first 3 episodes are all like biology terms, and then the next 4 are all economic terms, and then the next 3 are all based on chemistry, and then the last 4 are all psychology terms, and that obviously continues into the next season. So it's I really like it.
I found a little of that stuff, but I didn't actually realize all that. That's super interesting. You've trivia'd me, Lex.
Get out, trivia.
I pack your things, get out.
Meat. I'll send you a box of Christmas meat.
At the beginning of this penultimate episode, Intervention, Peter is rushing to the hospital, having learned of his aunt's heart attack, and is confronted outside by Eddie Brock. Peter is relieved to learn Aunt May will survive.
Before we even go into that, for this one episode, Peter is like, I don't know if the symbiote created this or he like wore this outfit. He's wearing like this black t-shirt and this belt and these brown pants, or I think they're brown.
Yeah.
And he looks fucking shredded in this shirt. He looks cut.
No one mentions this ever. Also,
he looks so buff in this episode.
Exactly as muscular as he was in the Spider-Man suit on Halloween, which anybody could easily just be like, "Oh, cool muscle suit. Way to go, Peter." He's just fucking jacked.
He looks like Jason Momoa. He's like fucking ripped.
He's like when Mac got ripped. It's all glamour muscles, It's all, yeah.
It's insane.
He has a brief confrontation with Eddie outside before he goes up into the hospital. Is this where he puts him up against the wall?
Yeah, I think so.
It's at the hospital. I want to say it might be later when they have like the lost my job talk. I think that is then, actually. This one is more just verbal confrontation, I think, before he heads on up to see Aunt May. Where when he does go up there, he learns Aunt May is not only going to survive, but she's going to be fine as long as she doesn't stress herself out too hard in typical Aunt May fashion. Aunt May laughs off pretty much all of this and tells Peter to go to school. On his way to school, Peter is confronted with the bill for Aunt May's medical services. Always in the red, but now, good fucking God, got even more money to make now. This causes him to lash out at Gwen, MJ, and Liz when they try to comfort him. Resident polyamorous king Peter Parker being consoled by 3 women at once.
Peter gets so many bitches in this show.
All he has the stamina to do is go, "I need fucking money," and run away screaming.
You guys, you're gonna help me, you motherfuckers. But yeah, Peter, it also happens in the next episode. Peter gets so many bitches.
Yeah.
Chick magnet.
I mean, can you blame him? He's Spider-Man.
Yeah, in that black t-shirt where he's fucking cut. Hell yeah.
Peter storms off, screeching about money, and makes his way to Tombstone's tower, Lincoln Tower.
Not only is he screeching about money, he's also talking about himself in like plural, where he's like, "We need this money."
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
which yeah,
he's going evil mode.
Anybody that he's talking to would just infer that he's probably talking about May, but we tap my little finger to my temple here. We know better.
Yeah.
He easily dispatches Tombstone's bodyguards and agrees to accept the gangster's earlier job offer. Look the other way occasionally. You can fight all the crime in the world that you want. Supervillains, regular villains, bank robbers. But when the crime involves Tombstone and Tombstone needs you to look away for this spendy case full of money. Tombstone agrees to give him this job offer, but tells Spider-Man that he is forbidden from fighting petty crime for 1 week in order to prove his loyalty. Let the muggings happen. Just let it happen. It's all good.
Yeah, he can't stop any crime unless it's a danger to public safety.
Let the little stuff go for 1 week. At the Connors lab, Eddie learns that he is out of a job. The funding given to the study to research the alien and look into it and all that, the funding is cut because there's no alien. With the funding cut, Eddie's grant to attend ESU is also, reneged. So this really lowers Eddie from, he's already, dealing with the fact that he's lost his lifelong best friend over stupid bullshit. And this just, brings him even lower to the point where we need him to be in this story.
He's fucking losing it.
He from there we get a lunch with MJ and Gwen.
They have a really, really great conversation here. Just the two of them talking about what to do about Peter.
Absolutely. MJ comforts Gwen and also urges her to confess her feelings to Peter, which, come on, shoot your shot. It's only Peter Parker.
Only Wallflower Peter Parker. Who cares?
While Peter returns to the hospital, where he is, again, like we mentioned, confronted by Eddie again, loudly blaming him for being the reason that he's lost his job. Peter very coldly rebukes Eddie, and the two get into a very brief fight that ends with Peter having Eddie up against the wall before a security guard breaks it up. Peter ignores another phone call, this time from Gwen, and is confronted by Flash, who, instead of kicking Flash's ass, Flash just kind of calls him out for being way too aloof towards the people that care about him the most. Maybe aloof's not even the best word. He's beyond aloof. He's actively...
He's aggro. He's straight up aggro.
So yeah, Flash chides Peter for a good while. Peter's been acting very unbecoming to the people that make him who he is and keep him centered. And
he's got the symbiote version of Roid Rage.
Even Flash is noticing, and that's a concern. Peter leaves to clear his head, not having kicked Flash's ass or pressed him up against the wall like he did with Eddie. And he does come to the realization that the symbiote is negatively influencing him to a degree that he cannot stomach anymore. This is, I imagine, what you were talking about when we get to the intensely Raimi segment of the show. Like directly ripping off, essentially, almost. I don't know.
Yep.
He arrives at a church, in a church bell tower, and desperately ignores the symbiote's attempts to convince him to keep it and to remain paired with it. He attempts to rip it off, and during the struggle collides with a bell, disrupting the symbiote. And is that the part where we get the straight up frame for frame, like it leaps off of him and screams a little bit like it does in the Raimi movies? It like exactly in profile, like the same as the Sandman stuff.
The part I'm talking about comes later in the same episode. After he ends up banging on it, the symbiote takes control and is gonna take him to a mind dimension to convince him to bond with it once again. And so as such, we get our first look at the origin story in this universe, which is there's quite a bit of it that's taken from the original, from Amazing Fantasy. It's basically two different sources. Amazing Fantasy 15, where he climbs up the wall and crushes the pipe and stuff like that. But I'd say about 75% of it is lifted directly from Raimi 1. The spiders, and Gwen looks in and says, "Oh, one's missing." The entire sequence with the wrestling promoter and the money being stolen. It's literally like they even like recreate the shots when he flashes back after he catches him, where it's like the guy running and then the guy in the elevator and he smiles and nods at him. It's the exact. It's like shot for. It's like, like the fucking Gus Van Sant Psycho shot for shot remake.
And honestly, as derivative as it is, I kind of fucking love it. Especially the amazing fantasy parts you were talking about, where he's talking to himself about how he can crawl up the wall now and all that, and it's just
and like he looks at his finger and like little hairs grow out. And I've said before that Raimi 1 is one of my favorite, if not straight up my favorite live action Spider-Man movie. And honestly, I'm gonna make a big statement here.
Oh boy.
The more I've been thinking about it, it might just straight up be my favorite Spider-Man movie.
That would be valid. You and especially us, everybody, especially us, love Spider-Verse, and I still, at the end of the day, I think I have to hand it to that. We could just sit here and have our whole Raimi 1 and 2 episode again. Those are solid fucking movies.
Spider-Verse is still a 5-star movie, but there's something about Raimi 1 that is so magical.
It's bombastic. It's a Spider-Man story. It's got little tiny horror elements sprinkled throughout.
But
it's great.
Like when Peter and eventually when Uncle Ben shows up, voiced by the late Ed Asner, Dudes Rock.
Fucking
when he shows up, they have almost the exact same conversation line for line.
In a fucking car.
In the car, outside of the library. Almost a line for line recreation. And it's like, fuck it, dude. Let's go for it. I love that. And also later on, they end up keep fighting in the mind realm. The symbiote keeps showing up to be like, what is all this suffering? They keep taking things away from us. Well, join us and we'll fight together. Blah 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 blah. It's trying to like turn to the dark side essentially. And then Ben keeps showing up, and it's like, let me show you how it's really done.
This happens like 3 times.
Uncle Ben fights him a psychic mind dimension against the symbiote, and it's awesome.
Not exactly.
Point is, you're changing into the man you're going to be. And just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. With great power, there must also come great responsibility.
Pretty words. But what good do they do? We still went to the venue. We still let the cat burglar go. He came down to take this car and took Ben away from us.
From him, not you. That's not the point, and I'll prove it.
It's pretty great, yeah. Like Lex mentioned, the symbiote has engulfed Peter and has him in like his own mind's eye, trying to convince him that he's useless without it. He's made to relive his very Raimi, very comic book origin. And I love that they saved that for like the end of the season. I can't imagine there was anyone anywhere going, God damn it, how did he become Spider-Man? I need to know. I want to know.
Get the money shot. Get the money shot right there at the end.
But through all of this, the symbiote nearly does succeed. But as you mentioned, the apparition of Uncle Ben Asner appears and restores Peter's resolve and enables him to use the power of friendship to repel the symbiote.
The power of friendship and a recreation of the cover of Amazing Spider-Man 100.
Yeah.
Which is, it's great.
It's a great fucking sequence. As derivative as it is, it's really good. And I do want to mention, like I said earlier, he has his whole little like Harry Potter moment of all his loved ones are with him and they're going to help him win and everything. And fucking Norman is just there.
Right at the end when he beats the symbiote in the mind realm, Ben is like, I'm always here. It's like, fuck yeah, let's go. I'm fucking amped.
Mm-hmm.
This straight up is my favorite episode of the season. I love this episode so much.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah. Peter, Spider-Man, rips the symbiote from his body. And
puts it in a bucket.
Puts it in a goddamn brown burlap sack he found.
No, wait, that's the next episode. In this episode,
is it?
He puts it in a bucket in this episode.
You're right. There will be a burlap sack.
He rips chunks off of the suit and puts it in a bucket. It's just here at the top of the church tower.
That's the church bucket.
And then he just leaves.
He does indeed just leave, returning it to the lab. There's no Eddie waiting below, seeking forgiveness, finding religion.
He just takes it, he puts it in a bucket and takes it back to Connor's lab.
Where he does encounter Eddie Brock, who is not looking for religion but science. Eddie is initially overjoyed to see the alien returned, but when Peter begins to freeze the symbiote in an attempt to kill it, his joy becomes shock and rage. The symbiote breaks free from the ice encasing it, and Eddie voluntarily bonds with it. When it is revealed to him by the symbiote that his two enemies are the same, and that Peter Parker is Spider-Man,
Who would have guessed?
Eddie, for lack of a better word, hulks out and becomes transformed into the monster we will eventually know as Venom.
Going Venom mode. Let's go. Venom moment.
Ending our penultimate episode and bringing us to the 13th and final episode of the first season of the Spectacular Spider-Man, Nature versus Nurture. This might be my favorite episode of the season.
That's a good choice.
It's a solid two-parter. I really did enjoy some of the previous, little guy villain episodes, but it's just been building to this. The Sinister Six was fun. I'm a big sucker for, in short order, the Clone Saga followed by the Black Suit Saga.
This back half of the season is like
it's loaded.
Green Goblin arc immediately followed by Black Suit / Venom arc. It's fucking just
with
a great
the Sinister Six
back-to-back.
mixed into that.
With the Sinister Six slipped in there, dudes rock. Let's go.
And done well, I should mention.
They unlike some people, they've managed to balance all of these different characters and arcs going on at the same time, balancing it really well. And it makes me wonder if Spider-Man, or just it makes you realize why superhero comics are these long form serialized stories, because that's the best way to do it. And it makes me appreciate how hard it is to tell a cohesive story that also balances all these things in a movie, because there's not as much time as you get in a television show.
Well, it's all NBD to him, of course.
It's all NBD. He's Bendy, Tough Mudder, EDM. Get a DJ under Spidey.
I'm never gonna let that go. I'm never gonna let that go. Nature versus Nurture. Having rid himself of his symbiote, Peter then goes to Tombstone to renege on his deal by apprehending a gang of masked goons and giving him their masks as a warning. Very, very Rorschach move of Peter there. Very, fuck you, I'm out. Following his departure, Tombstone is immediately approached by Venom, who offers to take up the job that Spider-Man has been offered, rejected, accepted, and then rejected. Tombstone accepts on one condition: he wants Spider-Man dead. The next morning, at the hospital, Peter visits its aunt and brings into a picture of Uncle Ben with him, berating himself, very, very self-flagellating for his recent cold and callous behavior to his loved ones. He goes to school and goes out of his way to offer Flash a thank you for the reality check he offered him, which is nice in recognition. It's fun to think about, oh, Jesus Christ, would he have kept that thing around longer if Flash Thompson hadn't said something? My God. Flash begrudgingly acknowledges him, but tells him, don't mention it to anyone or else. Nice little Eugene moment there, I guess. Also, yeah, this was, I believe, the first Media Before Amazing to point out and make a pointed Eugene thing outside the comics, which nice.
There's probably versions of it outside of it, but I can't believe you never knew that his name was Eugene.
Dude, I can't fucking believe that either. And
you're a fucking fake Spider-Man fan. I'm gatekeeping you right now.
Yeah, I'm only a dozen and a half episodes of my podcast in, and this is where it's revealed. I got to turn my Spider-Man card in, guys. I didn't know his name was Eugene.
I'm stripping your badge. I'm kicking you out of the league, dude. You're out of here.
It's just going to be welcome to Spidey Signals, the podcast where Lex talks about Spider-Man.
Just me, and I'll bring my friends on. It'll be a rotating cast of characters.
You're going to get bonded to a symbiote and find out your greatest enemy, Alex, is actually Alex.
Well, I mean, granted, we had King on this show, and they didn't know anything about Spider-Man, so
that's very true.
We play it fast and loose here.
You either know everything about Spider-Man or nothing on this podcast. There's no in between.
That's
and
the way it works.
I've moved to nothing. Sorry, guys. I need to turn my Eugene card in.
Just like
Peter,
Steve Ditko's old objectivist comic, Mr. A, there is no gray. There is only black and white, good and evil.
Peter also apologizes to his gang, his group of friends, for snapping at them the other day, and a lot of other days. Liz goes from there to invite him to help hold the school football team's mascot balloon at the upcoming redacted Thanksgiving Day parade. I like how they're all like, "Oh, it's the New York City Thanksgiving Day parade," and like they're contractually nobody fucking say Macy's. I swear to God.
Don't fucking say it. I'm gonna kill you. We can't pay those goddamn licensing fees.
Peter says that he intends to bring Aunt May home, and Gwen, urged on by MJ, awkwardly volunteers to help him. Sweet moment. MJ informs Peter that Eddie is more begrudged than Peter seems to be aware of. And Peter makes an attempt to call and apologize and semi-explain things away. Venom answers the phone, very coolly telling Peter that he'll meet up with him later with, more sinister intention behind that than
one
Peter's
thing I
aware
love
of.
about the way Venom looks in this show is he's built like a fridge. Like he's just got
Yeah.
little tiny legs, but a huge top side. Just
That's more in line with the comics than some of the other portrayals we've seen. Venom is a
he's
very
like wider than the Rhino. He's fucking huge.
He's got that like Captain America triangle top half of his body.
He's like Rob Liefeld, Captain America. He's got huge tits.
Yeah. Good old Liefeld. Oh my god. But yeah, great Venom, and I really like that when like the symbiote peels back, it's still got like the strands across his face, kind of. It's good stuff. I like it a lot. At the hospital, May is given a clean bill of health by a way more flirtatious than should be doctor. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
we
you
don't even
noticed
know
that
this
too,
doctor's
but
name. He's just
Jesus.
the doctor guy.
He's in love with May, from what we can glean.
Yeah, he calls her his favorite heart patient.
Yeah, and he's just like super complimentary from there. And it's like, if this guy was my doctor, I'd be like, Peter, get me out of here now.
People trying to mac on May.
Peter is volunteering to handle Thanksgiving at home, as he thinks May might be still a little too, heart attacky to handle Thanksgiving. Unfortunately,
heart attacky.
Yeah, that's the medical term. I'm a doctor. Unfortunately, Peter makes a awful mess of the kitchen. He also discovers the vial of gene cleanser that he had taken earlier following the lizard incident while he's changing into his costume. He contemplates drinking it, but is attacked by Venom, God forbid, who reveals that he knows who Peter is. Peter recognizes the symbiote and expresses disbelief that it survived and bonded itself to another human being, but Venom sneers at him and easily defeats him, saying that he intends to make Peter suffer for rejecting the symbiote. Great stuff here. I am so used to bad Venom stories that it like really takes me by surprise when we got a good one here. And I know I've probably said that a few times, but god damn, it's just it's done it right. And it doesn't have to be pitch perfect to the comics to be right. I don't mean that when I say it gets it right. You can tell a whole new story and still get it right or get it wrong. I just, I cannot understate how much I like the symbiote arc and all of this before we, finish it off here.
It's really well done. Not much else to say beyond
that. Peter realizes that Venom is targeting Aunt May for some reason and chases him to a hospital where May is examining an anonymously given get well card sent by Venom.
There's also Peter ends up smacking into a giant web that spells out "Guess who?"
Yeah,
I love that Eddie is like still doing like the spelling shit with webs that Eddie and Spider-Man 3 did. I love that he does that. Just like
he's not quite as good as replicating that font, but
he's not quite replicating the Spider-Man font, but it is very funny.
Spider-Man attacks Venom before he can strike at the hospital, and Venom opts to target Peter's love interest from there, revealing himself as Eddie Brock. Which I thought was weird in the middle of the fight, just to go bro in such a way to like play that card, you know. But he had to find out somehow, I guess. I don't know.
He's just trying to fuck with him.
Exactly. He tells Peter he's going to go after who he loves the most, and Peter thinks that would be Mary Jane. I don't know if that's how he's thinking, or that's how he thinks Venom would be thinking. Maybe he's just too stupid to know that he likes Gwen and Gwen likes him. I don't know. It's Peter. Spider-Man rushes towards the parade, of course the Thanksgiving Day parade. Sorry, I lost my track here. Flash is attempting to flirt with MJ. Peter is keeping an eye on MJ from above, watching all of this, and he discovers too late that Eddie's actual target is Gwen, chasing after them only to find Gwen's discarded saxophone on the road. Poor band geek Gwen.
Good God.
Peter...
that reed is probably broken.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
She's got to go buy a new reed. What a pain in the ass.
Peter does find Gwen suspended from the Midtown High mascot balloon, but before he can rescue her, Venom attacks, where it's revealed in traditional fashion that Peter's spider sense is not working with the symbiote due to the quality time that they spent together. He refers to the symbiote as the Symbi at one point here, which made me go like, oh God, all right.
I think it might be later in this fight, but we also get to see like the Spider-Man wants Venom to shut the fuck up, so he webs him in the mouth, and then suddenly a mouth appears on Venom's stomach and starts talking, which is so fucked up.
I loved it. It's very The Thing.
It's like a real Ghostbusters action figure. Like they'd have those people that would turn into ghosts.
Yeah,
like straight up that.
It is. Oh my God, it's great though, and you don't see a lot of like on-screen opportunities for Venom to like take advantage of his like fluid creature taking the shape of something else nature. And it makes perfect sense that if his mouth was covered, well, guess what, bitch? I can have a mouth anywhere. He's lucky he didn't turn around and have a mouth on his ass, like talking to him. It's great. I love it. Really cool. Spider-Man desperately tries to persuade Eddie to reject the symbiote, but he's rebuked by Venom, preventing him from reaching the balloon as the symbiote's webbing suspending Gwen begins to fray. Spider-Man goads and prods Venom into slashing the balloon so it will land gently, but Venom snaps the lines and tackles Spider-Man when he attempts to carry Gwen to safety. He free falls for a bit, and, you know, it's a children's cartoon, so don't be concerned by falling Gwen Stacy as much as you should be, I guess. She's caught in the hand of the balloon by the football team.
Yeah, the football team comes together, and Flash is like, "We got to go save Gwen," and the football guys are like, "Yeah, let's fucking do it." Real dudes rock moment.
Absolutely, it is. Mike Stacklasa likes to say, you know, everyone likes to see the football team win in a movie. Well, god damn it, they do here.
What episode was that?
He makes some analogy about like that's what people like with happy endings. They like the football team ending. I cannot remember what episode it is, but if you look it up, that's a phrase Mike has used.
I'm gonna go look it up right now. I've just been watching a lot of RLM videos, and I remember seeing that.
Oh, for sure. I know I name dropped Gone Girl earlier. I just watched that for the first time this week, and I don't remember if there's a half in the bag, so that'll be the rest of my night.
It's on my list.
Spider-Man attempts to take Venom down, but is sent flying through a water tower. He thinks on it and realizes that he cannot win this on his own, and that the symbiote is trying to prove a point. So, in another great moment of Peter showing his like intuition and smarts, he offers himself to the symbiote as like a tribute, sacrifice, return to me kind of thing. Venom initially scoffs at the notion, but Eddie slips up with his first-person pronouns, which Pete calls him out on. And the symbiote immediately abandons him, causing him to pass out from the energy consumption that had been working on him.
Yeah.
It attempts to bond itself to Peter again, only to realize that it's been deceived and those emotions are cut off. We get another great little power of friendship moment here in his mind dungeon, I guess. Peter prevents it from rebonding to Eddie by scooping it into a convenient brown burlap sack and dropping it into a pool of freshly poured concrete. Very much in the same way he took out the Sandman in an earlier episode.
He just puts this incredibly dangerous alien in a burlap sack and carries it to a construction site. It's so funny.
When I was 7 years old, my dad found a snake in the backyard, and we put it in a pillowcase and drove out to the woods to drop it off. And when we got into the woods, we realized the pillowcase had a hole in it, and we didn't have the snake anymore. Fucking... That's when the first thing I thought of when Peter put the symbiote in a bag that is woven of threads that have minute space between them.
Like,
but whatever.
It's so funny. It's so funny. He just puts it in a bag.
Peter's solution for 2 villains in this series has been cover them in concrete. That'll do it. And I guess it worked the first time, so you know
you could solve most problems that you have by covering them in concrete. I've always said that
web shooters. You should have concrete shooters.
I've always said that, in the movie, the movie It Follows, where you have
I know of it, but I've not seen it.
If you don't know, listeners, about the movie It Follows, is that there's like a sexually transmitted ghost that will attack you, and the whole point of it is that it disguises itself as random people, and it will just walk towards you until it gets to you, and then it will fuck you to death. That's a real thing that happens. It Follows is a very good movie. But anyway, my solution to beating the monster from It Follows is that it has the strength of like a normal person, and you can like stun it by shooting it in the head, and it'll fall down, but it'll get back up. But my solution is that when the monster is coming towards you, you basically just trick it into falling into a giant hole that you fill with concrete, like a Tom and Jerry cartoon. That's how you beat the monster from
or Spider-Man, I guess, by that same
or logic. Spider-Man, because if you trap it in concrete, it can't move because it's just a person. It has the strength. It's a ghost, but it's the strength of a person, and it can't move on to the next person until it kills you. So. Normally it would be like the only way to get rid of it is to have sex with somebody else, and then it'll kill them, and then it'll eventually get back to you in the list. So no, just you finish it by just putting them in concrete. Then the ghost can't chase after you, and it won't hurt anybody else. There you go. I just solved the movie.
There you go. That's also, I guess, No Way Home spoilers. Peter's just gonna defeat all of his villains by teaming up with the other Peters and spraying them with cement.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
We're talking about the ending of season 1.
Oh yeah, I forgot this is a Spider-Man podcast.
Yeah, welcome to Alex and Lex talk about movies only one of them has seen this week, Gone Girl and It Follows.
Where we talk about Venom and Gone Girl and It Follows.
But yes, Peter defeats the symbiote by dropping a bag of goo into more viscous, thicker goo. Dudes rock. That's all I got. Peter returns home victorious to find Aunt May already there, with Gwen and Captain Stacy arriving for dinner as well, helping him clean up the mess he made. And after dinner, we get possibly my favorite scene of the entire show so far, I should say, where Peter takes the gene cleanser that he's had with him this whole time. He really, really, truly ruminates on the nature of, he's already had this talk with himself earlier when he decided not to drink it, but he makes the realization and talks to himself about Spider-Man helps people. That is what he does. That is what Peter does. That's to be his destiny, is to be Spider-Man and to help people, to prevent the bad things from happening. So he pours the gene cleanser down the drain in a declaration that Spider-Man is here to stay.
My only thought is you never know when you might need a gene cleanser in the future.
I did think that too. Like, oh my god, what if the lizard acts up again, right? What the
That's
fuck?
Gonna come back. I feel like that's gonna come back to bite him in the ass. Like,
it absolutely has to.
Again.
It's a stupid move to have flushed it, but I do really love the poignancy of the message here about Spider-Man.
It's a good way of recapping the conflict that Peter has throughout the season.
The Stacys get ready to go. Peter and Gwen kind of awkwardly say goodnight, but before she can fully commit to running off, Gwen turns back on her heel and gives Peter a big, long kiss and runs back off again, leaving Peter not only dumbfounded and happy at this, but also reminding him of Venom's sinister threats, so to speak.
About going after the one person that loves him the most.
Yeah, briefly, kind of filling that gap in his own brain there.
That's why he thinks that that's why the first person he goes to, he thinks it's Mary Jane.
Yeah.
It's actually Gwen.
But that is where we leave off with the first season of the Spectacular Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, baby.
That is the end. We are halfway there.
Good ass season.
Absolutely.
Alex,
Uh-huh.
do you have any fun facts?
Not a tremendous, terrible amount. Not really anything grand to speak of. We did briefly
we
mention
already-
the episode naming conventions of this.
I might as well go through the second season ones. And the thing about the naming conventions is that all the episodes that have like the same theme, they're all like arcs that connect to each other. Which is why I think for the next episode, instead of doing 6 and then 7, we're going to do 7 episodes and then 6 to
Nice.
complete those arcs.
Nice.
So for the first 4 episodes of season 2, they're all engineering themed. And then the next 3 after that are all psychology themed again. So it's like, actually, no, it's developmental stuff. It's first steps and growing pains and identity crisis. So it's all like child development. And then the next 3 after that are all criminology themed. So it's like accomplices, probable cause, gangland. And then the last 3 are all theatrical terms. So it's subtext and opening night and final curtain.
Very cool. You've outsleuthed me here.
I've
you are now
outsleuthed
trivia-
you.
You are Trivia Lex, I dub thee.
I got more things to do for this damn podcast. I already edit everything.
Yeah. No, next with the next 2 episodes, I'm gonna have a more comprehensive series of trivia. A lot of it was mired down in this being season 1 and there only being so much. A lot of the trivia that I have access to is more, like I've said, more comprehensive, I guess is a good word for it. So in the coming episodes, I'll have more than I was able to offer for these. But yeah, no, that's really interesting, the episode title thing. It's a thing that gets overlooked a lot because not every kid in the world is like me and would hit the info button on the remote and read the episode description and the episode title, you know?
Yeah.
But no, that's if you were that kid like I was and still very much am, it's something to appreciate for sure.
You got anything else?
Not anything else specifically as far as fun facts for season 1, no.
All right.
Just my retrospective round of fucking applause at how strongly they nailed everything for the first season of a Spider-Man show. Just seriously impressive. And I have no idea how this stayed off my radar for as long as it did.
Yeah. Going off for my final thoughts, it's this in this back half of this first season, it got somehow even better. I don't know what the general consensus is. Is the second season better? Is it worse? Is there a crazy cliffhanger on the final episode? I don't know.
We will know pretty soon.
We'll find out, but I have really, really enjoyed this show so far. Like I
Absolutely.
said, my favorite episode so far has been the stuff that's come in this back half. Episode 12 in particular has been really, really great. The story arcs have been well written, blah, 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 blah. You've heard me say all this stuff. Go watch the show. It's really good. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. It might not be because of all the legal hangups about this television program, which we'll talk about in the last episode, which led to its cancellation.
It may or may not be streaming if you type in the name of the show and then the phrase streaming and then hit enter on your keyboard. I can't verify whether or not it'll take you to a site of dubious legality to watch the show, but you didn't hear that.
I mean, I don't know. When I streamed this television program, or I'm streaming this television program, I found it on this webisode. I found it on this website called like the Buccaneers Bargain or something like that.
Jesus, Lex. you engaged with an actual deep, like on the sea pirate.
I don't know, Pirate Bay or something.
Something like that, yeah.
I don't know. I used a VPN to to torrent it or something and download it
Yeah,
on my
no,
computer. Or
I
something
just
like
think
that.
really hard. I sit here with my fingers pressed to my temples and go, what do I think happened in the episode?
I,
And then
yeah,
I just go from
I
there.
read the descriptions of the plot on Wikipedia and close my eyes and like press on my temples, and then I think about the episode, and that's what I watch.
Rub my eyes really hard.
Rub my eyes really hard, and I'll start seeing stars, and then suddenly the episode will appear before me.
Ugh. I am very much looking forward to the next 2 episodes here of our
Oh, yeah.
of our little show. I'm really excited to see how this caps off, and I'm going to be heartbroken if there's a cliffhanger. But
That's gonna fucking suck if there's a cliffhanger, because this
Catch us
didn't
in-
really end on a cliffhanger. This ended on a nice little bow that they had.
Oh no, yeah. Catch us in 5 more years when Disney runs out of or even more creatively bankrupt than they are, and they decide to make a season 3. We'll cover it then.
Yeah, I guess on Disney Plus. But I don't think we have any letters today. Let me go double check the email.
Mhm.
Yeah, we don't have any letters. But yeah, that's our show. Thank you so much for listening. If you've got a question or a comment that you want us to read on next week's episode, be sure to send it to us at our email address, spideysignalspodcast@gmail.com, or you can shoot us a DM on our Twitter at spideysignals. We recorded this week on a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday when we usually do. So even if you were going to send it in, it'll probably be late. Next week, we're going to cover the first 7 episodes of season 2 of The Spectacular Spider-Man. So until then, stay responsible. Bye.
And choose.
Choose Martha! Go Mariners.